that we have in our country between the rich and poor.
Are you serious, man?
And I found that I had 20 really major problems.
I noticed too that you ask yourself, Mitch, what's going on, man? Welcome to Dead Edge. Dude, badass solutions for big ass problems.
I like that. Hi, Larry.
It's good to see you, man. My gosh.
I'll retitle the book. Dad ass. I like that.
Dad ass. I have to ask you, first question out of the gate here, man, is who did the cover of your book? It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's people really like that cover, and we went through a bunch of iterations of it, and like a check mark on fire, like this problem solved and everything. It looked a little too devilish, and then one of my people in marketing said, be more positive. This is about great ideas. And my wife said, a light bulb has always been the example of a great idea. Maybe you can use that. And then we kept this idea on fire, and then it became lightning, and that's what it became. And then there was I think people are attracted to the cover, but the comment I get more often than anything is it says nonpartisan. And people are liking that, Larry. It's like we're so sick of the political parties in our country, that just to say, oh, here's a book with solutions that are not political. Yeah, that's something I'm interested in.
I love that, man. And you describe yourself, I know in the book and through your bio, that you've always been a solution-oriented type of person. Was this something you developed, or maybe even as a kid, like you were more focused on solutions and problems?
Well, I'm a business guy. So I've got a 40-year, pretty extensive business career. I was the founder and CEO of publicly traded companies, private companies. I developed commercial real estate. I still own and manage commercial real estate all across the country. And in being in business, to reach your goal, you are thrown roadblocks. I mean, every damn day, and if you can't figure out how to get over them, under them, around them, through them, whatever, you're just not going to make it. So you develop problem solving skills. And I think if you're in business long enough, you develop extreme problem solving skills. And I think I have. And then I applied really my methodology for solving problems, not to these business issues, but to these societal issues, of immigration and gun control and crime and, the rising ocean levels and public schools and, all of these different really major issues. I applied what I know about solving the problem. And I was able to really come up with some surprising solutions that really work, that are pretty logical, that are actually doable. We could do these things.
That's really cool. Is it just the fact that most people who are focused on trying to solve the problem, they're too focused on the problem itself and maybe not the solutions?
That's a good point. I'm not sure. I think you really have to define your goal, and that's kind of my approach to solving a problem. I actually kind of equate it, in my own business mind, I equate it to how do you approach negotiations? How do you approach sales? And it's like clearly defining what your objective is. What do I want to accomplish here? And then you start digging into, well, what are the specifics about the problem? Why is this problem so big? And start getting information about that. And then I go through, well, what if? What if this? What if that? And God, that was stupid. So change direction and play some more what if. And then it really takes me down a path to success of the objective.
So give us maybe something simple, maybe something that maybe other people tend to get tripped up on, or they just don't they just don't. You mentioned understanding your goal. Do you think a lot of people miss that step entirely? Just understanding what their goal is and the clarity around that.
That's one of the secrets to success. I mean, no matter how many, self-improvement books or business books you buy, I think you hit the nail on the head, Larry, that, you really have to have pretty clearly defined objectives. What is it you want to accomplish and what exactly do you want to accomplish? So, that starts the path. I think you're right.
Is there a process of really understanding, what that goal is? Because I've heard the quote, and I'm sure everybody has, is that if you're not clear on your goal, you could climb to the top of whatever ladder your goal is, and you look out and you're like, oh crap, I'm at the top of the wrong one.
Yeah, that's so true. I think it's having this clarity, if you will, of trying to figure out what is it I really do want to accomplish. Do I want to be, more successful? Well, that's too damn big, you
Right.
know. So that could lead you, up the wrong mountain pretty easily. But do I want to be successful selling commercial real estate? And start honing and honing and honing into, well, what am I going to do tomorrow? And I think that takes you up the right mountain, actually.
What do I want to do tomorrow? So tell me more about that.
Well, like, back to this example of, being involved in, let's just say you're a commercial real estate broker and this is your goal. And well, I want to sell, I think I can understand how the numbers work on a shopping center. I understand, what it takes there, but to get involved in selling a shopping center, I need sellers, I need buyers, I need to understand the workings of it, I need the property. So where's my biggest gap? What do I really need to understand better? What do I need to accomplish more for being a good, successful person selling commercial real estate? Well, let's say we figure out that tomorrow, my first step is I want to understand better how the financial structure of a shopping center works. So I'm going to go online tomorrow and I'm going to find properties that are for sale and look at their sales sheet, which tells me, where the property is, what it is, how many square feet it is, how much income there is, what are the expenses, and then what's the sales price being offered? And does that make economic sense versus others? Now, that may be day number two, but I'm going to understand at least how that shopping center is being offered for sale tomorrow.
That makes total sense. So it's really it's getting very clear on the understanding of what the goal is, and maybe even where the gaps are of what we need to understand better and be better about. Okay. I noticed too that you ask yourself, like, so for instance, if this is you, looking at an opportunity, you're asking yourself really deep, meaningful questions that are open-ended and are, quite frankly, they're generative in nature, right? They generate different ideas, different thoughts around, basically just instead of like, hey, I'm going to go do this thing. It's like, wait a second, let me ask myself some of these really clarifying questions here, which, by the way, I love your questions. Is this something that, is this part of the process, is just getting very, very clear and asking yourself very good creative questions to get that clarity?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. I think, questions are, the first step for intelligence. And I think that, you're right. Asking good questions leads you down the right path for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I noticed that in your book, like, you've got so many different topics and so many, and quite frankly, very triggering ones at that may, so like the pollution problem, the ARs, oh, that one, I was just like, I wonder what that one's all about. The homeless, public school versus private school, the national debt, all these different things, even the rising water levels. But I would love, since a lot of our listeners are dads, one of the most fascinating ones is right now, I think, would be the public school versus the private school one. And a lot of people are just up in arms over the public school system right now. Some people are even saying like private schools know better. it's literally just public school is just different. Some people are like, yep, we're homeschooling. We're not even trusting the public school system. So this is a big topic now, but I would love for you to dive into that one.
It is a big topic, and I think it's critically important. I'm glad you hit on this one because uh, we have a problem in our country that I think is a result of the public education system, and it's even a bigger problem, and that is the chasm that we have in our country between the rich and poor. It- really, that's about public schools, and the answer to me is yes, because what we have is the wealthiest people in our country, the people who have the most political influence, their kids aren't in the public schools. They put their kids in private schools. They're Larry, they're spending $30,000 to $50,000 a year to put their kids in private schools. And what does that do? That perpetuates the difference between rich and poor. These kids in public schools, now, there are a lot of people who really care about the public schools being great. There are a lot of parents who work very hard with their kids in public schools to do very well, to learn as well as they can, and keep this all moving forward. But if you just take most kids and put them on that starting line, and some of the kids are way out in front as the starting line for getting into good colleges and then for getting good jobs. What do we have? We have this perpetuation of, maybe getting a little deep here, but of landed aristocracy. It's like what they had in Europe, where excuse me, the royalty kept that going because their kids got the great education. Their kids had the advantages. You know, our founding fathers had some really pretty amazing ideas. They thought that the success of our country, the success of democracy and capitalism, and this was really led by John Adams, was dependent on the quality of the public schools, that we all start at the same place. This country is about equal opportunity. If we don't have equal opportunity, we're going to continue this gap between the rich and the poor, and it's going to hurt us. You know, revolution is never very far away when you have a growing level of poor people who are not making it in the society, and they're watching, the Kardashians, fly off, every week on their private jet, and the big problem they have is which one to take. So, you have problems in our country that are festering, and here's my big ass solution is out there. Let me warn you, Larry. I think we should make private schools illegal. We only have public schools. And in doing so, you take the people, the parents who are the wealthiest, the most influential in our society, and put them back in the public school world. They're going to make sure that their kids, along with your kids, are getting a great education. Now we're at the same starting point of equal opportunity. And, it's aggressive, but I think it could change our country.
So, well, let me ask you this: if you make it illegal, are we actually? And I'm going to challenge you a little bit on this one, just
Sure.
some friendly challenging, because I'm just so curious. But are we creating a bigger problem? Because if we make something like that illegal, isn't that kind of against our American rights as choice?
You know, we have rights of freedom of choice, and we have laws, and we have the ability to create laws, and we have the ability to enforce laws. And if we find things that are too dangerous, that have a bad outcome, then we have the right to create laws about that. I mean, let's just, the thing that came to mind first was, just smoking. We know that smoking is dangerous. Secondhand smoke is dangerous. If you smoke, in a closed room or on a plane, you're affecting other people. And well, maybe it's your right to smoke, but it's not your right to make other people ill. So we create laws and we enforce those laws. And I'm just saying you know, I do believe in our freedoms, in our freedom of choice in this country, but I also think that when we see big problems that are festering and growing worse and actually threatening the success of our country, I think we need to, examine that and ask questions about, well, how do we stop this chasm between the rich and poor? How do we fix that? And this is my solution. If you have a better idea, I think we pursue that. But am I willing to say you don't have the freedom of choice to put your kid in a private school? Yeah, I'm okay with that. I
Okay.
want you, the richest and the most influential people. I want your kids in public schools. I want your brain. I want your money involved in public schools. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Interesting. Okay. Um, when it comes to, so do you, you mentioned in here that when there's this much of a gap between the rich and the poor, that we could be on the brink of a revolution, right?
Mm.
And how close do you think we are to that brink?
I don't see it. I don't
Okay.
see it like ready right now. But I do think you've got a lot of people in our country who are hopeless. They're not making it. They're the people who are really struggling because the price of eggs doubled or tripled. It matters on their breakfast table. It matters how they're feeding their family. And they do see a segment of our economy that is extremely wealthy, extremely well off, and having a great time. And I think that those feelings tend to fester, for people in our country who are just, really struggling. They work hard, or they're trying to get a job and can't get a good job, that takes care of their family well, and that they can't get ahead, and that their job is vulnerable because of, let's say, artificial intelligence is going to supplant their job. They need to be retrained, or on and on and on. But they're not one of the successful segments of our economy, and they get hurt. They start to think, well, why not me? What's wrong here? And I think as that have not group begins to build bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're more dissatisfied, that's where we do have revolution.
Yeah.
And maybe that's an aggressive word, but that's how it happens. And revolution can be of thought. It doesn't have to be of guns and tanks. Although we have 20 million assault rifles in this country, and I don't think we're invading Canada, but we have a lot of guns in this country that that are handy for people to be thinking and talking about a real revolution.
Yeah. I know where you're. I feel like I know where you're going with this. Let me ask you this, and I actually would love to talk about the assault rifle thing. So I'm just curious about that one. But when it comes to, how can I say this without? I mean, this is going to offend people, but it is what it is. I just don't know how else to say it.
Oh,
So
let
I
offend people.
I didn't come from money,
Yeah.
right, at all. And I mean, I've had to work my tail off, in my organization and getting a good job and going to
Sure.
college and all that good stuff, right? And like, I have worked my fingers to the bone over the years, to get
Well,
where I'm at.
well,
And
congratulations.
well,
Really, I
thank
mean,
you. But I
yeah.
mean, I say that humbly, but I also, I'm not sitting here being like, why not me? Like, where's my handout, like type of thing and that kind of thing. I do think that there's plenty of people out there. In fact, that we've got some guys. We have a guy in our community right now. He's insanely qualified in a job in IT.
Mhm.
Has his degree. Super successful. Was caught up in a corporate downsizing about 9 months ago, and he has yet to find a job. And he is about at his wit's end. And we're all just like praying for this guy and like, man, like, if anybody deserves a job, it's this dude. Like, I'm just floored he doesn't have one yet. So like, yes, like that type of thing. Like, I definitely get it.
Mhm.
But the thing that I will tell you this, I know that there's a lot of people out there that are hardworking,
Yeah.
that have a hard time like paying for groceries. And like, I mean, dude, we're feeling like I have 4 boys. We're feeling the effect of groceries all over the place in this house. Like, oh my
That's
gosh, it's
what
so
I'm saying.
expensive.
That's
But
exactly what I'm saying.
yeah, but at the same time, what about people who just like, hey, regardless of the school you send your kids to, there's a certain element of accountability here, of you showing up, and we understand that life isn't fair and all that good stuff. But there's also, there's tremendous opportunity here in this country as well. You can go out and start a business. You can go out and do things that you can't necessarily do in other countries. So I'm curious, is your take on that? Just self accountability with people.
I couldn't possibly agree more with you. And let me say, I am a patriot. I am so grateful every day of my life to live in this country. And when I talk about the things I talk about fixing things, it's to perpetuate the country and hopefully make things better for more people. But no, I love this country and I'm incredibly grateful to live here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's one of those things like, so even being a business owner, right? You go through ebbs of in seasons. Any business owner will tell you this, like, oh yeah, like 2022, we crushed it, right? 2023, it was a little tougher, but we had to get, you figure it out. You get creative with things like, hey, how can I go out and create more value or create something different or create something new or whatever else, which I think that, again, it kind of goes back to some of those generative questions of regardless where my kids go to school, like, how might I, or how can I, or what can I do, or, versus like, why can't I get a handout too? Or why can't I get my fair share? Like, I don't think that those questions necessarily lead to solutions.
No, I agree with you. And I think my point was only if your kids have the same educational opportunity that really rich kids have,
Yeah.
they're going to do better. They're going to be better off.
I have a good buddy of mine. His name's Matt Bordeaux, and he runs Apogee, and he was associated with Acton Academy, which is more like, it's private school. It's non-traditional. It teaches kids about business and life and entrepreneurship and all kinds of amazing things. And
Yeah,
it's a
right.
huge price tag to go there, right? My kids go to public school. I'll tell
Mhm.
you, there's a lot of things that we teach them here under our own roof that they're not learning in school. But yeah, I agree. I'm like, man, like, I would love for those resources to be a part of our public school system, and right now they're not. So I get that, but I appreciate you clearing that up. But it's really fascinating. It's like, wow, that is kind of I wouldn't say that's the easy button, but that's like, I could see where that would actually cause some positive ripples in the public school education system.
I think it would be a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, B- put those people, the the richest, most influential people, caring about public schools
Yeah.
because their kids are there. They don't give a damn about public schools right now because their kids aren't there.
Yeah. I would agree with you. The whole thing with the assault rifle thing, this one has me really fascinated, right? I mean, I'll admit I have assault rifles. I've had them, and it's really due to the fact that, I mean, would I ever go into a public place and use one? Of course not. But at the same time, if something horrific happened tomorrow, in our society, and suddenly I had,
Yep.
50 criminals outside my door, and I don't have anything to defend my family with other than maybe a Glock and a butter knife, I don't want to be in that position. So, but then again, I'm also not one of the crazy people that's going to go shoot up a public place either with it. So, can you tell me, what is it, the number of assault rifles are out there, or is it just the people that have them who aren't fact checked?
Neither one.
Neither one. Okay.
The abuse of them.
Okay.
So let me tell you a little story.
Sure.
You may remember about 2 years ago, there was a Fourth of July parade outside of Chicago, one of the suburbs, and there was a crazed young man with assault rifles, and he killed 7 people and wounded a lot more. And one of the people he killed was my brother-in-law's brother. And yeah.
Are
and
you
it struck home.
serious, man?
Yeah, it
Oh
struck
my
home.
gosh, Mitch, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'll tell you something. It's one of the things that kicked my ass. It really is, Larry. So,
Yeah.
needless to say, the family was just devastated. This was a terrific guy. I mean, it was the greatest guy. And beside being hurt by this, I left pissed. And it's one of the reasons I wrote this book. It's one of the things that made me take stock of myself. I said that or I felt like, what's going on in our country? This is crazy. We have 20 million assault rifles out there that are being misused, and it's causing two mass shootings in our country every damn day. Something's wrong here. We've got to stop this. We've got to fix this. But then I looked around and I was dedicated to, to start getting involved, not to just, sit back, doing investments. So I looked at this and I've always been a news hound. I've always been really interested in current events. And it's just kind of my nature to go, well, why don't they do that? Why don't they this would fix this problem. Why don't we do that? And I decided to write down an outline. And I found that I had 20 really major problems, and at least the beginnings of real solutions for those 20 big ass problems. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is a book. And Larry, I had absolutely no intention of writing a book. But that was 2 years ago, and now I have badass solutions. It's been very well received. A lot of people are getting pretty turned on by the solutions. And not only is there a discussion about the solutions, but every chapter begins with kind of a description of what the problem really is. So even for your dads out there, to have their a little bit older kids, maybe high school or in college level, to start talking about or looking at these topics, that they're not really getting in school, and then that there's an answer for them. And one of the big things for me is we don't have to live with this black cloud over our head about all these problems. There really are solutions. We can make changes. We can fix things. This is positive. And that was my starting point. But now you look deeper at a big ass problem like assault rifles. And so here I am dedicated to saying this is something that we don't need. We don't need 20 million military weapons in the hands of civilians. And I got to tell you, I'm a gun owner. I'm all in favor of the Second Amendment. I have guns in my house. I do believe it's important, to take care of your family, to secure your property. So that's different though. And it's like, where's a line? Should we have bazookas? Should we be able to have tanks? And the answer is no. We have the our laws that draw a line of what you can and you can't have. Guns, absolutely, have guns, but not assault rifles. They're being misused. And it's like what we were talking about a little bit earlier of, I don't want to step on people's rights, but I want to say, as a society, when problems arise, we need to fix them. And I believe, again, I have a badass solution for assault rifles that as an assault rifle owner, you're probably not going to like, but you may see the logic of it. And that is, I believe we have to create a law that says civilians can't have assault rifles. So civilians can't have bazookas. Civilians can't have machine guns. Civilians can't have tanks. Have your guns, but you can't have an assault rifle. So we create a law, and have the courts ready to enforce laws and be badass. So big ass, badass, hard ass, all of it is, you've got 30 days to turn in your assault rifle and get a refund from the government. We know where they are. 99% of the assault rifles were purchased legally, and registered. We know where they are. And guess what? If you don't turn it in, you're going to jail for a year. We mean this. This is serious.
Do you think though, like you mentioned here earlier, that we could be knocking on the doorstep of a revolution, but we're, when it comes to rich and poor and that kind of thing, but we're not really close to that right now. The story I'm telling myself though, Mitch, is if the government tried to confiscate assault rifles from good civilians, like that revolution might actually be way faster than what if we tried to fix the school system. Like, I mean, could you see, like, would people really, really rebel against that?
I think people who have assault rifles, and are law abiding and, just like you say, I have this kind of fear in the back of my head about, 50 people coming to try to assault on my house. And because of that, I need an assault rifle. And you being hesitant to say, well, and you mentioned, a Glock, and a Glock isn't enough, or 4 Glocks, aren't enough, that also, let me tell you something. The thing about an assault rifle is you have a clip that will shoot as fast as you can pull the trigger. But a Glock pistol does the same thing. And it's got a magazine. I would put it to you that I don't think you could kill more people, if you will, with an assault rifle than you could with a Glock in defending your own home.
Yeah, I mean, I see where I see where you're going with this. The interesting thing about this, though, I mean, let's just talk about home protection and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I love this topic, and I love, the friendly debate on this. I had a highly decorated Navy SEAL come on the podcast. One of the best snipers that has ever walked the earth.
Wow.
And he's his big thing now is home protection and that kind of thing. One of the things that when I asked him, I was really surprised. I was like, "What is the best weapon for home protection?" I thought he was going to say like a handgun, because it really wasn't conspicuous, or a shotgun. He's like, an AR. I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Why is that?" He's like, "Well," he goes, "Think about it. Number one, you have a full magazine of 30 rounds. Number two, if someone is holding your child or your wife at knife point or gun point, you sure as hell don't want to be on the other side of them with a shotgun, because you'll hit them. You'll hit a family member trying to shoot an intruder." He said the other thing too is, if you really look at hand-to-hand combat, the people that lose their firearms taken away from someone who's a criminal is a handgun. A handgun can be easily stripped off you in about 2 seconds from somebody who could either overpower you. He's like, but an AR, you can shoot them with it. You can hit them with a bat, like hit them over the head with it. You can swing at them. And he's like, so from a home protection standpoint, it's the most accurate. It holds the most rounds. It's not going to spray if you shoot in a direction. It's going to be one shot, and they're less likely to take it away from you, because in hand-to-hand combat, they've studied this. It's easier to get a handgun away from somebody than it is a rifle. So I'll admit, I was like, I didn't know that. I assumed it was probably a handgun, or I assumed it was probably a shotgun. But when he put all those pieces together, I was like, that's really telling. And I think what you're talking about too is like the abuse of this, right? It's the people that make really, really horrendous decisions with these firearms. Do you think the answer is making assault rifles illegal and then, hey, you've got 30 days to turn it in or else? Or do we first like say, hey, if you legally own a firearm and you have a felony record, well, I think those are the people we go after first, or we just take them away from everybody?
My take is a little different than that. The thing that I hear frequently about this problem is a responsible parent,
right,
that has assault rifles or an assault rifle, and it's locked away. It's it's secured. The bullets are kept separate, which I don't see how that helps you anyway. But it's locked away, and then you hear, I'm not kidding, every day that some really troubled youth finds out or figures out how to get their parents' assault rifle and go kill people, shoot up their school, shoot up a shopping center, kill people at a 4th of July parade, like somebody in my family. That's the problem here, is these weapons can be so abused. I don't think anybody cares what you as a responsible citizen feel you need to do to protect your home. But I'm not sure you can protect that your children, I mean, I didn't want to put it to you, but a person can necessarily guarantee ironclad that their kid is never going to get their hands on that gun, on that assault rifle. If they get their hands on a gun, it's also a problem. Maybe not as big as a problem. We just had the same thing happen with the shooting of President Trump with an assault rifle.
Right.
I mean, when do we say, I kind of like to have an assault rifle. I kind of like to have a bazooka, but I can see where the society is getting hurt for it.
I could see that. I mean, especially with things like that. And plus, like, the elementary school shootings, I mean, my God, like, those make me sick, man. Like, or just like these public shootings, like where someone just decides, like, hey, I'm going to take my assault rifle and just shoot it into crowds. Like, it's that to me is absolutely horrific. And that is an abuse.
That's all I'm trying to stop.
Yeah.
And I, you know what? Maybe I'm just not as smart as I would like to be, but I can't think of a better way, Larry, to just say we have to stop. Stop what's not working. Stop what's causing the problem.
So, and I'm sure you've probably heard this argument too, but I'd be really, really curious. Like, if we were to solve, so like, for instance, the first two problems we talked about, right, is we make private schools illegal, we make assault rifles illegal. Well, like, let's talk about, like, drunk drivers, right? I mean, do we make alcohol and driving illegal, or like, how do we go about even solving a problem like that?
Well, I think we've come so far. It's not over, but
Right.
we've come so far, in reducing drunk driving, and that has really come a long way, and I think that certainly drunk driving can kill people, but also drunk driving hurts the driver, the drunk person, and it's just bad all over. But I don't think you're going to stop alcohol. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. You're not going to stop drugs, but you can stop assault rifles.
Okay. Yeah. I can see your position on that. What about, so like, if you have me really fascinated here, because the first topics we've talked about is like, well, we could just, we create a law around them. What about, I am so curious out of some of the things that are on your website, the rising water then. Like, because I think we could segue into something that we probably can't make illegal unless we have to do something there with that.
I don't think we'll be as challenging or concerned about stopping citizen rights.
Right.
Our solution.
Everybody has to stop drinking water. No.
No, I'm glad you went there, and it happens to be really near and dear to my heart, because this is such a huge problem, and it's like we don't even know about it. We hear about it here and there, but we are headed toward a global catastrophe, a socioeconomic catastrophe unlike any that has ever faced human beings. This year, that's 2024, it is going down as the hottest temperatures on Earth in recorded history. And that's not new. We keep getting worse and worse. And what's happening is global warming is causing the polar ice caps to melt at a rate that would fill 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools, Larry, every second. 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools every second. By the end of this century, all coastal cities and islands are going to be completely flooded. Nobody's doing anything about this. We're about to completely lose our coasts and virtually all of our islands. It's happening. It's not this idea is this going to happen? Are we going to get hit by a comet? This is happening. And I found that we can actually stop the ocean levels from rising and at the same time use all that fresh water for the billions of people who live on our planet in the most parched areas.
What you got?
Well,
Let's hear it.
All right. So I found something that just knocked me out. As much as this water is that's melting into the oceans from the polar ice caps, 20 Olympic pools every second, that's only a small fraction of the amount that's going in of the water going into our oceans from just our 20 largest rivers. Really? It shocked me. So I found if we channel just 7% of the water from our 20 largest rivers, if we include more rivers, it'd be even less, but 7%, and move that water to arid lands, we can actually stop the ocean levels from rising and stop hunger and thirst on our planet. It's such a huge win. Wow. Catch this. There's even a model for this. For decades now, the Central Arizona Project has been moving water from the Colorado River over 336 miles to deliver fresh water to 5 million people living in Phoenix and Tucson. For decades. It's this huge, huge economic win. It's not only an example of how we can move water, but it's an economic win. It cost a fraction of its benefit. So here I'm saying we can do this. We can stop the ocean levels from rising, and it could actually be an economic benefit to the world. If you can deliver fresh water to the people who don't have it on our planet, who don't have enough food, who don't have enough water, can you imagine the change on our globe, on our world? It'd be phenomenal, and it's something we can do on a global basis. And we need to start this.
Do you have contacts and can you talk to the right people about getting this done?
Wait, President Trump.
I was looking for a bat phone or something.
I don't. I'm just a guy. I don't. But that's why I wrote this book. I'm really trying to get people to look at these issues and that they're big problems that normally we just have people running around with their hair on fire, saying we've got all these problems and nobody's throwing out a good solution for them. And I'm hoping to get a groundswell of people who are interested, and find something that's near to their heart. If it's assault rifles, if it's public schools, if it's, the topics we've been on about, the ocean levels rising, and get involved. You can make a difference. One person can make a difference. And it's, there's a kind of a central theme I made of the book I'm really big into quotes. And there's a fabulous quote from Mahatma Gandhi, who said, when the people lead, the leaders will follow. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping to get enough people interested in seeing these solutions happen that they tell other people. They show the book to their family, to their kids, to have some discussion. Things start at the kitchen table. So have these discussions, get involved, tell other people. Listen, write to your representatives. The thing we forgot in our country is they work for you. You don't work for them. Write to them. Tell them what's important to you. Tell them that there's a good solution here for this problem that you want them to get behind. And then there are millions of organizations that do great work, that need help. If they're, and they're on every possible topic. So join an organization, give of yourself, tell an organization, wait, here's a solution to your problem that we can get behind. And let's all fix all these things.
Good stuff, man. And I know that this is just scratching the surface. I want you to talk about the other things that you address in this book as well, like just some other problems that we're seeing them out there.
Well, one of the things we hear about virtually every day is the debt of the United States.
Oh my gosh. Can we talk about that one too? You got time?
What?
Do you have time to talk about that one?
Well, I do. Do you?
I do. I would love to hear about this one.
All right.
Cool.
So the U.S. is now $35 trillion in debt. And the country is literally drowning in its own debt, and particularly the interest payments. Think if this was your house, your own home finances, and you kept digging a hole deeper and deeper and deeper, and you were paying interest on more and more and more. It's an endless hole that you can't get out of. And our politicians, again, with their hair on fire, are running around saying, well, we got this problem, and we'll raise taxes. Well, they're telling you they're going to lower your taxes. And, we'll stop spending. And let me just give you some perspective here, is that $35 trillion of debt. And by the way, it's growing by another $1 trillion every 100 days. So $35 trillion is 7 times the amount that the federal government brings in every year from taxes. The federal government brings in $5 trillion from taxes every year, but the debt's 35. So if the federal government didn't spend a penny, it would take 7 years to pay off the debt. Actually, more than that, because you'd still be paying interest. It's a problem that these people are not solving. It's going to take a bigger solution than, we'll raise some taxes, or we'll cut a little bit of spending, or they're trying with Elon Musk and Doge, trying to cut out wasteful spending, but their goal, they're aiming to cut out $2 trillion of expenses of the federal government, but our debt's 35 trillion. So that's not enough. So what do we do? And so I looked at this hard and said, how can we be really aggressive with this? What's that going to look like? And we used to have a system in the United States called the gold standard. And it was really kind of fascinating that we had gold in Fort Knox. And the theory was that the government could print dollar bills and put that into the economy as long as it equaled the value that we had in gold in Fort Knox. And for a time, it was even possible for U.S. citizens to trade a dollar bill, let's say $10 bill, for $10 worth of gold. That's how one-to-one correct it was. But it was the basis for allowing the federal government to print money because it had assets in back of it. Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So.
And what's that ratio now?
Well, we went away from this during the Nixon administration. And I believe that was the beginning of Congress deficit spending. So, yeah, there's some interesting kind of side trips here, that if the U.S. is really bankrupt, this is an interesting question for you. You don't have to answer, but for you and your audience to say, well, if the U.S. is really bankrupt, how is it possible that the U.S. is by far the biggest, most successful economy in the world?
I don't understand that one either.
Yeah, we're 30% bigger than China. Catch this one. We're 15 and a half times bigger than Russia. Amazing. The other interesting question is, if we're bankrupt, how is it possible that our U.S. Treasury securities, that's how you lend money to the United States government, U.S. Treasury securities are thought of in the world as the safest possible investment? How's that? That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. So,
So
how, yeah.
here's the answer, and then I'll tell you where it led me. We all kind of feel in our guts that, well, the U.S. is so big and so powerful, such an economic powerhouse, and it really has assets that it could never default on these debts. Nobody says that out loud, but it's something we feel. And people keep buying U.S. treasuries, keep lending the U.S. money, even though it's such a bad problem. So here's where that led me. Again, I have a very extensive business background. If you use standard accounting principles, accounting, real accounting, and we look at the U.S. as like a business. So an accountant would come in and say, wait a minute, you got a lot more assets than just gold in Fort Knox, which is the direction you were going like. You have a lot more assets than just the gold. You've got land, huge amounts of land, huge amounts of minerals in that land, gold reserves, oil reserve, military installations, planes, ships, schools, hospitals, on and on and on, to where the assets of the United States are much bigger than just its gold. So I said, well, wait a minute. Let's do something new. Let's, instead of the gold standard, let's call something the asset standard and actually use the assets of the United States, all this stuff in back of our country, not just Fort Knox, and say, this will allow us to write checks against our assets the same way we issue dollar bills against gold. So we sent a check to China for $1 trillion. That's how much U.S. securities China has, $1 trillion. And the question becomes, Larry, will they cash the check? And the answer is yes. China and your Aunt Betty will run to the bank and deposit their checks. And maybe we give them a thank you note. Thank you so much for lending money to the United States. We're paying you back. Here you go. And they run and deposit it in their bank account. Now, the question is, will it clear? Absolutely, it will clear. It's written on the United States Federal Reserve Bank. Now, we've just paid off the entire U.S. debt. I think we should do it, add a little more to that. Our unfunded things, like we don't have enough money in Social Security. We don't have enough money in Medicare. Maybe we can fix a lot of public school issues. We do this once. Can you imagine Congress seeing that they can write checks forever with no consequences? It'd be completely out of control. And then it would hurt the economy. Past this, it would hurt the economy. So I think this has to be coupled with a constitutional amendment that requires the U.S. to have a balanced budget. That means that it can never spend more money again than it takes in from taxes. That's my badass.
Dang, man. I know a guy who works at the White House. He might be able to get you like that little White House phone for you.
Yeah, get him on the phone, will you?
I mean, I can't promise it'll go straight to Trump, but this is cool, man. You know, and the funny thing about this is I got to admit, I expect you to come on and get really, really complex with some of these things, but quite frankly, like they're simple, which I think is, yeah. I think the simplicity is what gives the solutions kind of elegance.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
why they will work. They will work.
Well, as we wrap up here, you are a dad to how many kids do you have?
I have 2 stepsons and 2 grandchildren.
How old are you, Mitch?
I'm an old guy. I've been in business over 40 years.
I know.
I've been married
like, well,
over 40 years.
Oh, I figured you must have started a business at 10 or something. So
I did. I was shoveling snow at 13 for all the neighbors.
Okay. There you go. Yeah.
I
I
grew up
mean,
in Denver. That's how I made money.
okay. Well, yeah, there's always customers for that. Um, so two stepsons, grandkids. Obviously, you have this tremendous like solution mind for big problems. When it comes to just family things, how you go about your family. Many of us, as parents and kids too, right? We're so problem focused, right? And we don't even ask ourselves like really good questions at all. Like, like if we blow up at our kids, instead of being like, how might I be a more patient father? We're like, why do I suck at this so much? Like, or why am I such a bad dad? Or why am I so angry? Like we ask ourselves really bad questions, which I know that, but
Well, yeah, that's
have
self-destructive.
yeah, it's very right. So just raising your stepsons and now grandkids and marriage and all your years in business, what are some of the easy answers and solutions to maybe some of the simplest things that we face as parents that you've noticed?
Well, I can tell you as a stepfather, I think I came up with something that really worked for me and for my stepsons. Uh, they had a good father. They didn't need me to be their father. And I approached this as I just want to be your friend. And and with that mindset, it has worked really well for 40 years. That they they trusted me. We've been close. We do things together. And then, interestingly, when it was the right time for them, they would kind of put me in a more of a parental position, of, well, what do you think about this, or can you help me with that, or things like that that they would go to a dad with, they would come to me with, because I think I established this level of trust, and I think they had some confidence in me, and on some issues, to be able to do that. So I think that was something pretty uh, um, fortuitous that I was able to do, is just try to be their friend. I don't think that's the same thing of raising your own kids. You're the dad, and you gotta be strict when you need to be strict, and loving and caring, and not be their friend as much as they be their dad. So it's different. It's different. But a little bit more of what you were asking is, how talk about solving problems and all that, and you know so much that's in the book are problems that are not necessarily addressed in school. And like we just talked about with the economy, with things like this, I go into detail about Russia and China. What's that about? Why do we fight them? Why do they fight us at every turn? How can we fix this? And I think that I would love to see people get the book, and have some kitchen table discussions about, well, here's this problem, about Russia and China, and how can we fix this? This is what this wise ass Mitch Francis says we can do, but let's have some discussion, and then maybe it drills down to household problems, addressing the problem, and then how do we solve that problem? Let's solve it.
I love that, man. And I like how we have a lot of guys who listen to the podcast who are in blended family situations. And I know some of the hardest, roadways that they traverse are, what's my role here? Right? I'm not dad. Maybe I'm dad. Maybe they call me dad. Maybe they call me Mitch by my first name. Maybe I am their parent. Yeah, it's like it's a Rubik's cube
Right.
for I think a lot of guys in different situations, but
Yeah.
I love that approach. That's really cool.
Thanks. Well, I was lucky. I was lucky. I had the support of my wife in that, their mom, and they didn't give me a lot of problems. It was, I had to be tough sometimes, sure. It's my house. No, but being close, being friends, has really worked for sure. And I always supported their mom. I think kids try naturally to pit parent against parent. I just wouldn't have it. I would never go against their mom, and in fact talk her up. And I think they respect me now a lot for that.
I mean, I'll tell you, man. Just from my perspective, so I had several father figures that kind of came in and out of my life as a kid growing up.
Mhm.
And if I had a dad or a stepdad that, or a father figure that approached things like that, you know, that had my mother's interest at heart or had her back and maybe even spoke highly of her, it would have had a tremendous positive impact on me. I quite frankly, I saw the opposite a lot.
I'm sorry.
Like
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's fine. It is what it is. But like when you said that, I was like, I put myself back in like, you know, 12-year-old Larry and I'm like, what would that have been like? And I can tell you, it would have been a lot more pleasant than what I experienced. So I love, excuse me, I love that approach. That's really cool.
Thanks. Thanks. I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
it really rose from, seeing my parents not get along at all, and that, and I think that was part of it. That was, certainly hurtful and, terrible to grow up in. And then, and I happen to have the right wife. I mean, she's absolutely fantastic. So it's not hard to support her, but it's, and yet, kids try to do that, of pitting you against each other and all that. So it's hard. Sometimes it's hard, to stay on path of, you're not going to put me against your mother,
Yeah.
forget it.
Yeah. We've been doing something in our house. Like I said, I have 4 boys. I have 18-year-old, soon to be 17, 11, and 8. And my 2 older ones, and well, now my 11-year-old, he's kind of figured this one out too. So like the boys will come to me for certain things and to my wife. I'm sure you know this, and my wife for certain things.
Sure.
And like one time we got in the conversation. I was like, "Hey, why is it you come to me for this and go to mom?" And then like those openly tell you, I run it through my mind of who's going to tell me the answer that I want to hear. So I really,
They're
I
not done.
know it's so funny, man. It's like, well, how do you do that? And they're like, well, first of all, I read the room. Who's less crabby? Who's had a better day? And then whatever the subject is, who's got more grace? Like they literally play it like a game of chess. But like one thing that my wife and I we've always said this is, I got your back, you've got my back. Like we are never ever going. These kids are never going to play us against each other, even if like we quote unquote don't agree. It's like, hey, like did you ask your mom? Yeah. What did she say? No. Okay. Well, there's your answer, buddy. Right
Really,
there.
you're just miles ahead. Those kids are so lucky,
Oh, thanks,
and you
man.
guys are lucky. That's great.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I want to make sure all the guys can be pointed in the direction. You guys gotta go check out bad-asssolutions.com. This is one of the colors on your website alone are just awesome here. But where else can men find you as far as like if they want to follow you on social media and things like that?
Well, yeah, it's, I'm not, unfortunately, I'm not real big on social media. I'm on uh, just a couple things here and there. But I think the thing to try to pass on is you can go on Amazon for Badass Solutions, with or without a hyphen, Badass Solutions, and get the book. I mean, there's a lot there that I think are beyond what we talked about today.
I'll tell you. Do you have I don't want to spoil anything, but do you have another book coming out by chance?
Well, I have other problems in mind, for a second book. But I tell you something, I'm trying really hard to market this, to get this word out and see if I can stimulate change. I'm in this to see if we can actually make the changes. It's not about selling books. It's about, we can change these things. Come on, let's join together. Let's fix these things. And if it doesn't reach that critical mass, then I think that another book is just going to be kind of a waste of time. So I'm really focusing on market this, get the word out, push for change.
I love that, man. I might send your book to this buddy of mine who's got he's got the white phone in his office. Like we always joke with him when he's on Zoom calls. We're like, oh, the phone in the back. We know what that one's for. He can't even disclose everything he does to us, but he's a good dude.
Would you?
I will, but I'm gonna put a big sticky note on it. Do not come after my ARs. I'm just
doing that.
I'm just giving you trouble, man. I have thoroughly enjoyed this, Mitch. This has been awesome. Congratulations for all the success in your book, and I wish you the best, man. Like I really, I mean, these problems, some of these problems, man, they absolutely need to be addressed. And I love the fact that you come at them with simplicity. And this was a pleasure having you on. I've loved it.
I love being with you, Larry. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. This has been great.
You
And
bet, my
you have
friend.
really good questions, by the way. You really, you're challenging and really get me thinking to the heart of issues. Thank you. You've been great.
You know, I appreciate you saying that. And the interesting thing is, when it comes to some of these topics, like man,
Well,
the U.S. deficit, like I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'd really love to know about that, and the rising oceans and the coasts and all that, like, I'll be very honest. When I did my homework on you, I was like, huh. I was like, this guy's got a solution to take away my guns. I don't really like this dude too much in a way. Like, but I was very genuinely curious at the same time. I'm like, well, I would love to hear his ideas at the same time. Like, well, what does this even mean? Like, how do we go about this? So like, when it comes to just having really fantastic conversation, I never take anything personally. I just like, I love to hear ideas and I love to hear positions and just like, hey,
you're
let's get
exactly why
creative.
change could happen.
Yeah.
If everybody could be open like you, change can happen. How? Thank you for that. That's terrific.
I'll share this. I might be open to hearing ideas, but I might not be open to complying on some of them.
You're
But
entitled.
I am open to hearing them.
You're absolutely entitled to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, dude, I really appreciate you having me on. Guys, if you want to head on over to thedadedge.com/508 for this show. This is our first show in 2025, and I can't think of a better way to start tackling, you know, big ass problems in 2025 with some really good solutions, Mitch. So thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
You bet.